Good afternoon, everyone. Let me welcome all of you to the Thursday, September the 5th, 2024, first budget public hearing meeting here within Orange County. As we begin this afternoon, I'm going to start off with leading you in the Pledge of Allegiance. We ask all to stand at this time. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you very much. Tonight, we will be conducting three separate hearings. The first public hearing will be for the mandatory refuse program to adopt the rate resolution and exemptions. The second public hearing will be to adopt the non-ad valorem assessment roll, which is required for all assessment being levied for the first time. And the last public hearing for tonight will be to adopt Orange County's tentative millage rate and budget for the next fiscal year. At this time, I'm going to call on Mr. Byron Brooks, the County Administrator, for opening remarks. Mr. Brooks, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mayor Demings. The purpose of tonight's public hearings is to consider and adopt tentative millages and budgets for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2024, and ending September 30th, 2025. The items to be considered tonight include mandatory refuse collection special assessment, non-ad valorem assessment roll, flat rate assessments for street lighting, fire hydrants, street paving, retention pond maintenance, and other MSBUs, the countywide base millage, municipal service taxing units for law enforcement, fire protection, and lake weed cleaning and navigation, and all other county budgets. The millages and budgets being considered for tentative adoption tonight are the end product of a two-day work session with the Board of County Commissioners in July of this year. Public notice of tonight's hearings has been provided via notice of proposed property taxes mailed to each property owner, as well as legal advertisements for the mandatory refuse and non-ad valorem assessments. At this time, I'll ask Mayor Demings to call to order the Orange County mandatory refuse public hearing.
All right, thank you, Mr. Brooks. I will now call to order the mandatory refuse public hearing, and we'll call on Mr. David Gregory, the manager of the Solid Waste Division, to present remarks regarding rate and collection services changes for the calendar year 2025. With that, you are recognized, Mr. Gregory.
Excuse me. Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners.
Afternoon.
Chapter 32 of the Orange County Code requires that the Board of County Commissioners pass a resolution annually setting the mandatory garbage and recycling rate to the citizens and an annual rate of compensation to the haulers at the first budget hearing. In June, the board tentatively established a rate to the customers at $300, which is a $10 increase over this year, and the annual rate of compensation by zone based on the rate adjustment calculation as stipulated in the hauler agreements. These rates are listed in the resolution as the annual rate of compensation on a per household basis paid to the hauler providing solid waste and recycling collection services. Please note that these rates are an increase from 2004 due to an increase in the consumer price index and the contract requirements. On the screen is shown the rate to pay each hauler by zone and also the MSBU rate to the customer. We request board approval of the resolution establishing the MSBU rate and annual rate of hauler compensation for calendar year 2025.
All right, thank you, Mr. Gregory. Ms. Mello, are there any members of the public present who wish to be heard at this time regarding the mandatory refuse rate and collections?
Mayor, there's no speaker for this public hearing.
All right, thank you very much. With that, is there a motion to adopt the mandatory refuse resolution, which includes a mandatory assessment rate of $300 per year?
So moved, Moore.
Second, Scott.
All right, so Commissioner Gomez, could Darrell was trying to get out. So moved. She didn't quite get it out, but Commissioner Moore actually said it first. She said so moved. So if it's okay, we'll give the motioner to Commissioner Moore.
It's okay.
And Commissioner Scott actually got it out as well, so he'll be the seconder on the motion. Any further discussion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes, and it is unanimous. And now I'll call on Mr. Gregory to present staff and hearing officer recommendations for exemptions. With that, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you. Each year, property owners are notified of the special assessment for mandatory garbage and recycling collection services. The Orange County Code allows for property owners to appeal this assessment and allows for exemptions based on circumstances and changes to the property use. Typically, staff recommends exemptions for properties that clearly fall under these conditions for exemption and refers the rest to a hearing officer. This year's hearing officer is Ms. Stephanie Bello, a local attorney who is present tonight to answer questions you may have about the appeals process. The mayor and each commissioner have been provided with a booklet listing the exemption recommendations for calendar year 2025. Section 1 contains previously granted exemptions that have been reviewed by staff, have been determined to still meet the criteria, and are recommended for exemption again. There have been no changes for this year. Section 2 contains new staff requests for exemptions that have been investigated by staff and are recommended for exemption. There are no changes for Section 2. Section 3 contains appeals heard by the hearing officer who has determined that they meet the criteria for exemption and recommends approval. No appeals were requested or heard. Section 4 lists appeals heard by the hearing officer who has determined that they do not meet the criteria for exemption and who recommends denial of the request. No appeals were requested or heard. We recommend board approval of the staff and hearing officer recommendations as listed in the booklet for exemption from the mandatory garbage and recycling assessment for calendar year 2025.
All right, thank you, sir. Ms. Mello, are there any members of the public present who wish to be heard on mandatory refuse public hearing items at this time? Exemptions only.
Mayor, there's no speaker at this time.
All right, thank you very much. Is there a motion to accept staff and hearing officer recommendations concerning the exemptions to the mandatory assessment?
Motion to approve, Scott.
Motion by Commissioner Scott, second by Commissioner Bonilla. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes, and it is unanimous. And now we'll adjourn the mandatory refuse public hearing and call to order the non-ad valorem assessment roll public hearing and call on Mr. Kirk Peterson, our OMB Director, to announce the non-ad valorem assessment roll information. With that, Mr. Peterson, you're recognized at this time.
Thank you, Mayor. Under the regulations for the uniform method of levy, collection, and enforcement on non-ad valorem assessments, the county must adopt, subject to a public hearing, an assessment roll for all assessments being levied for the first time. The public hearing will also consider the adoption of the non-ad valorem assessment roll, authorizing the tax collector to use the uniform method of collection of non-ad valorem assessments levied by the Orange County Board of County Commissioners as provided in Section 197.3632 of the Florida statutes. All affected property owners have been given the right to file written objections with the Orange County Board of County Commissioners, and at this public hearing have the right to appear to give testimony. Mayor?
All right, thank you. Ms. Mello, are there any members of the public present who wish to be heard on non-ad valorem assessments only?
Mayor, there's no speaker for this public hearing.
All right, thank you. I would ask for a motion to adopt the non-ad valorem assessment roll as presented with a unit of measurement and the respective amounts by subdivision and/or parcel identification number as stated in the assessment roll. Is there a motion?
So moved, Moore. Second, Uribe.
We have a motion by Commissioner Moore, second by Commissioner Uribe. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes, and it is unanimous. We will now close the non-ad valorem assessment roll public hearing, and we'll move forward on our agenda. I will now open the public hearing on the county's budget to include all millages and funds, and will call on Mr. Byron Brooks, the County Administrator, for some brief budget remarks. Mr. Brooks.
Thank you, Mayor Demmings. The fiscal year 2024-2025 budget reflects a balanced budget as discussed at the budget work sessions in July, with any necessary changes, including updated revenues and expenditure projections. Each commissioner has received the statement of changes package and was offered a briefing by staff. So, Mayor, with your permission, I'd like to call on, at this time, call on Kurt Peterson, OMB Director, to announce the millage information.
All right, Mr. Peterson, you're recognized.
All right, thank you, Mayor. The following tentative millages rates are hereby established and fixed for the following purposes and entities. The associated percentages are the percentages by which the millage rate adopted herein is more or less than the rollback millage rate for each of the following purposes and entities. The countywide millage rollback rate is 4.2215. The proposed millage is 4.4347, a 5.05% increase over the rollback rate. The unincorporated tax district rollback rate is 1.7153. The proposed millage is 1.8043, a 5.19% increase over the rollback rate. The county fire and EMS rollback rate is 2.1330. The proposed millage is 2.8437, a 33.32% increase over the rollback rate. The OBT corridor improvement rollback rate is 0.5763. The proposed millage is 0.5932, a 2.93% increase over the rollback rate. The OBT neighborhoods improvement rollback rate is 0.2437. The proposed millage is 0.2554, a 4.80% increase over the rollback rate. The Orlando Central Park MST rollback rate is 1.0914. The proposed millage is 1.1549, a 5.82% increase over the rollback rate. The iDrive Master Transit rollback rate is 0.2250. The proposed millage is 0.2334, a 3.73% increase over the rollback rate. The iDrive Bus Service rollback rate is 0.7264. The proposed millage is 0.7523, a 3.57% increase over the rollback rate. The North iDrive Improvement rollback rate is 0.1577. The proposed millage is 0.1601. A 1.52% increase over the rollback rate. The Apopka Vineland Improvement rollback rate is 0.56. The proposed millage is 0.6, a 7.14% increase over the rollback rate. The Bass Lake rollback rate is 1.2689. The proposed millage is 1.3872. A 9.32% increase over the rollback rate. The Big Sand Lake rollback rate is 0.1359. The proposed millage is 0.1378, a 1.40% increase over the rollback rate. The Lake Holden rollback rate is 2.3943. The proposed millage is 2.5337. A 5.82% increase over the rollback rate. The Lake Irma rollback rate is 0.5965. The proposed millage is 0.62, a 3.94% increase over the rollback rate. The Lake Jean rollback rate is 0.0382. The proposed millage is 0.0410, a 7.33% increase over the rollback rate. The Lake Jessamine rollback rate is 0.6567. The proposed millage is 0.6545, a 0.34% decrease over the rollback rate. The Lake Killarney rollback rate is 0.2 0.8004. The proposed millage is 0.8613, a 7.61% increase over the rollback rate. The Lake Mary rollback rate is 2.7614. The proposed millage is 3.0, a 8.64% increase over the rollback rate. The Lake Ola rollback rate is 1.8880. The proposed millage is 2.0, a 5.93% increase over the rollback rate. The Lake Pickett rollback rate is 1.7190. The proposed millage is 1.7597, a 2.37% increase over the rollback rate. The Lake Price rollback rate is 0.9953. The proposed millage is 1.0719, a 7.70% increase over the rollback rate. The Lake Rose rollback rate is 1.4059. The proposed millage is 0.7594, a 45.98% decrease over the rollback rate. The Lake Sioux rollback rate is 1.1909. The proposed millage is 1.25, a 4.96% increase over the rollback rate. The Little Lake Fairview rollback rate is 0.4832. The proposed millage is 0.5, a 3.48% increase over the rollback rate. The South Lake Fairview rollback rate is 0.0155. The proposed millage is 0.0171, a 10.32% increase over the rollback rate. The Lake Conway Water Navigation rollback rate is 0.5379. The proposed millage is 0.5750, a 6.90% increase over the rollback rate. The Windermere Navigation rollback rate is 0.2378. The proposed millage is 0.2528, a 6.31% increase over the rollback rate. The aggregate millage rollback rate is 6.5103. The proposed millage is 6.9612, a 6.93% increase over the rollback rate. Mayor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Peterson. With that, Ms. Mello, do we have any members of the public who are present who wish to be heard on the millage and the budget?
Yes, Mayor, we have two speakers. Can I have Cheryl Bunker and Frank Vertoli to line up? And you will have 2 minutes to speak. Cheryl Bunker and then Frank Vertoli.
And
If you could state your name and address for the record.
again, as they're coming forward, this is the only opportunity the public will have to address the board on the millage and budget. Okay, with that, you're recognized.
Good evening. Thank
Good
you.
evening.
It's my first time here, hopefully not my last.
Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Cheryl Bunker. I live at 2130 Colonial Woods Boulevard in Orlando, 32826, the east side, Lake Pickett area. I'm here actually, two type things. Lived in Orlando in Florida since 1967, so I've been here a long time. As a potential inheritance of many properties that my parents own, my father recently passed away, so I'm taking care of my mom, who's 91, the properties. It is astronomical, the rate of the tax rate that has gone up, not only in my own home, but these properties. These properties that are here are going up $1,653.97 in 1 year. I've got another property here that's going up $1,191. This is just an increase in 1 year. And then, of course, my mom's not going up much because she's a widower. The rates that the insurance and the property taxes are going up every year, these properties are rentals. So I hear on the news all the time about the increases in rents and people can't afford it. I couldn't afford to rent a home, even one of these properties that we have right now on my income. And the taxes are going up so high that the absorption, I know you all know this because probably several of you own property, the absorption is going back to the tenants. The tenants are going to pay for that. So with this right now, these increases, I mean, I would have to increase these people's rents over $250 a year. I retired from the school system. my hourly salaries didn't even go up nowhere near the price of that to cover that. I couldn't afford to live, if I got kicked out of my own home, I couldn't even afford to live in one of my mom's rental properties. I couldn't afford to pay the rent or the mortgage for that. So that's my concern with the rate of the interest rates that's going up. I also have a concern, I have a short little bit here, Lake Pickett. I live out there. Lake Pickett. You got a brand new neighborhood going up there, and the roads, I live on East Colonial near Lake Pickett, and I can't get out of my neighborhood every day. There's traffic everywhere. I feel that you should focus on building our infrastructurals, our roads and everything before you jump into throwing in homes and things like that, which, you know, my parents get the money for that, but we can't handle that. The traffic can't handle that, the people can't handle that, and sure enough, the tenants can't handle the rent increase. And I thank you for
All
your
right.
time.
Thank you, Ms. Bunker. We'll move to the next speaker, please.
Frank Vertoli. Please state your name and address for the record.
Frank Vertoli, 5106 St. Marie Avenue, Belle Isle, Florida. Good afternoon, Mayor and
Good
Council.
afternoon.
I'm here about the fire increase, the 20-some% increase in the fire millage it's going to cost the citizens of Belle Isle. I don't want to sacrifice anybody's safety, but this is crazy. I don't understand how you got in this position that in 1 year you need 4 new firehouses and 160-some new firefighters. We have a lot of senior citizens that are on fixed income. A lot of people are trying to raise families. Other taxes are going to go up too. They want more for stormwater. They want more for valorum and stuff. I don't, you know, increase of Social Security was 3-point-some%. The CPI was only 2-point-some%. And yet you give us these increases that are 20-some%, 25%. I wish you'd take more consideration into this and try not to kill us all at once. Maybe if we need improvements, we could do it a little bit at a time, but not this big shot at one time. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Fertoli. Are there any other speakers, Ms. Mello?
No, there's no more speaker at this time.
Okay. All right, if there are no other speakers, again, this was the only opportunity for public comment regarding this matter. Is there a motion at this time?
So move, Scott.
We have a motion by Commissioner Scott,
Second by Wilson.
second by Commissioner Wilson. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no.
No.
I believe that's one no. Commissioner Uribe. Motion passes 6-7. I mean, 6-1. 6-1. All right. Okay, Mr. Peterson, after that, the OMB director, would you please announce the budget information at this time?
Thank you, Mayor. The proposed budget for fiscal year 2024-25 is $7,246,873,513, a 8.4% decrease from the current fiscal year modified budget.
All right, thank you, Mr. Peterson. With that, I call for a motion to adopt the budget resolution.
Motion for adoption, Scott.
We have a motion by Commissioner Scott, second by Commissioner Bonilla. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes, and it is unanimous. All right. As a reminder, the second and final public hearing on the county's budget is scheduled for Thursday, September 19, 2024, at 5:01 p.m. This time, there's no further business for this afternoon. We stand adjourned.